Is the pinning dependency versions from someone in here?
Yes, that was me. I
Okay,
added that topic.
let me start with that then.
Yeah, so this is something I kind of noticed after kind of skimming through some of the emails after returning from um, some time off, that we had another one of these events where a bunch of things in the tests I think broke because the upstream had a major version number bump and they changed certain things. I think it was Flake 8. I'm not entirely sure. I ran from one meeting to this meeting, so
I think I know. I think
not.
I saw the email you're talking about. I can't remember what it is either. Some pull request to fix. I think it was a Flake 8 version.
Yeah, I'm just a little running. Yeah, I'm not even have the minutes up yet. Those are the wrong minutes. Anyway, this is just one of those things I wanted to talk about because I noticed that it was one of these. It was pinned with an equals equals, which is fine for a short term thing, but I get a little nervous when I see these when I start going, well, what if we don't remember about this? And then the next thing we know, we've been on some old version of Flake 8 or MyPy or whatever it is for 3 years, and the world has moved on, but we've been kind of trapped in carbonite for however long because we did an explicit version pinning. So I was wondering if we shouldn't have kind of like a general, like, it doesn't have to be super strict, but some kind of general policy that says, if a tool we're using has a major number, break, yeah, it's okay to pin a version, but try to only pin a major version, and unless like that there's a problem with the minor versions. And then, what do we do? Do we try to get working on the new version, or do we like you know, is that something that we want to do? And that's, just wanted to throw that out there for discussion.
At least something like Flake 8, I feel like it would be nice to be going on the more recent version. I didn't go look at what actually broke,
Right.
whether it was something big or not. But obviously, I'm assuming they pinned the version because people who should have been around to fix it were all away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
And
you
like I
just
said, I'm personally okay with doing a pin just to like get over the hump for a week or two, or maybe even three. But once you start moving on beyond that, it's like the knowledge is not going to be fresh anymore. And if we forget that that pinning is there, um, you know, we could be shooting ourselves in the foot. And the other aspect was, what was I just going to say? If we do pin versions, it might be good maybe in the docs. I don't know. Might be good to have like a central location to keep track of it all, because we have multiple tox INI files, which is kind of, you know, makes it hard to find all the things. I don't know. Like I said, this is more speculative. This is more just throwing it out there rather than me having any clear. Like, we should do X.
yeah, I get what you mean. Like I kind of agree that it feels like we should have something a bit more to what we're doing, but I'm not exactly sure what that is either because there's so many
Yeah.
dependencies and it feels like there's different people who are more aware of how to handle each one and what each one does.
Yeah.
Um, so it's hard to have like a policy because you have to get everyone to actually stick to that policy.
Right.
I mean, I guess at least for main branch, I would like to, I don't know, keep on more recent major versions. I guess I like it, say
Hmm.
if they like backport it to when they backport these sort of things, we always do because they always break all the branches. The pins, I don't
Right.
want
Good
to
point.
ever, I don't really want to undo the pins on the release branches because those ones, it's a bigger deal if they break and, or maybe not a bigger deal, but it's,
Yeah.
I don't know, they shouldn't be
That's a
breaking. They
very good
also are
point.
older. So, I mean, I feel like for those ones, we can leave them sort of as is, or maybe we want to pin them more. We find a stable version that works for them. And then for main, I don't know, maybe we try to pin to again just major versions and see if we can try to upgrade it. And we have to still keep up with it. We'd have to have like almost schedule some, I don't know, like once every 3 months or 6 months, we have to look at the dependencies and see if there's new versions or something. Which would, I guess, require sort of what you're talking about, where you have to have like a list somewhere of the ones you're worried about, and be able to like look at them regularly. But I think we would have to almost schedule something. I don't think if we just leave it like that, I don't know how often we'd actually. I don't know. I won't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Not a super easy question to answer.
Muted myself. Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I'm just kind of putting it out there as food for thought.
We could start
Unfortunately,
though
it's
with
only
what you were saying
three
though.
of us here today.
Yeah. If you want to have like a docs page, I mean, because if we want to ever actually do something like this, where we say have a regular time where we go through and try to upgrade the dependencies, we do need to start with putting down what the dependencies are.
Yeah.
And so we have parts of the docs that are more like developer stuff, so we could probably put that there, like make some page.
Yeah.
That might
I
be a
guess
good
the other
starting.
thing, as opposed to a doc, instead of a doc, this just popped into my head. We could have like a script or something that actually knows to run through the various INI files and requirements.txt files and find all the pin dependencies and report on them, as opposed to statically having it in a doc.
Yeah, that could be good. We don't have to then worry about having somebody update the doc every time they want to add something. Yeah, I mean, that seems like it would be a good starting point, though. I mean, you just have somewhere where you can say, like, this is what we have right now. And I guess the next thing would be, again, if looking through them, and then I try to have some sort of regular, I don't know, let's just go through the dependencies and see if we can bump any of them, if there's been any more major releases.
Yeah, yeah.
So and that could be just the way we do it, because we could use pinning for them, because that way we don't have to worry about breaking them if we are able to dedicate to upgrading them like that. So if we do this thing where we have some script that points them all out, and then we say like every 3 to 6 months we're going to go through these and see if we can bump any of them. There's been any more major releases in any of these things. Then we could pin them, and it would, I guess, solve the problem of things randomly breaking. And then if we were actually good about it, it would still work for keeping things up to date.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely tough to like proactively keep on top of every dependency. Like, if you're using libfoobar and libfoobar is like, oh, they're going to do a major release. They're going from 5 to 6, and they're going to break their APIs. Sometimes it's hard to like proactively find those, but at least if we do pin something, we can then proactively look to remove the pins in this like quarterly cycle.
Maybe not even remove the pin entirely, but just update what the pin is.
Sure. Yeah, you can explicitly go from 5 to 6. But the only issue is then you have to look at all your pins and say, well, what has upstream moved on to? Because we moved from 5 to 6, but if they move from 6 to 7, in another month or two, then you're constantly having to keep up. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of it as more of a time thing. Like we don't do it every time they make a new major release. We come around to whatever time we want to go look at them. If they happen to have whatever the most recent one is, we can try it out, see if it
yeah.
if it works. Because I don't want to track those either. I don't want to worry about when they're releasing things. I would just then if we had a nice place that like compiled like this is the dependencies we have and this is the versions they're pinned to, and there was some easy way to go check if they have new versions, we could do it like maybe all at once,
Right.
and just see if we can have a pull request. See what happens if we update some of them. Do a bit of testing there. See which ones are easy, and we can just update them. And maybe some of them are harder. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about if pip itself has an API. I vaguely remember reading that it doesn't, but there are other like PyPI libraries and stuff that we could, again, if we did it as a script, we could actually, maybe query PyPI or something.
That could be good. Yeah, because if we get something like that set up, like some infrastructure, like kind of like how we did with the coverage report for the binary, where we don't run it regularly or anything, but it's there. That can like check what our dependencies are and then check what the most recent version is. And if we just again like 3 months, every 3 months or 6 months got together and ran that and said like this one is more new major version, you just see it on like whatever output we have, and we could try updating them. And that could maybe be a
Yeah.
way of handling this without worrying about it breaking other people's stuff because the version happened to be increased and it doesn't work with what we have.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the big part of that is we have to get the infrastructure set up first. And we need some script to get our list of dependencies, what versions we have, and I guess we need some way of getting the most recent version of those dependencies. But if there's a way to do
Yeah.
that, then that'll be pretty nice.
Yeah, this is one of those things where I normally would want to volunteer, but I'm gonna hold off on it for now because I'm a little overextended on other things at the moment. But if no one takes care of this, like in the next 3 months or something, yeah, maybe I'll circle back and take a look at it myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also a bit caught in other things. I was going to get back to, I was going to talk about the testing stuff a little bit in here,
Right.
this topic. But I can at least make it like a
Yeah.
cleanup tracker. We did it
Yeah,
for some other stuff
this is
before.
yeah, that's a very good point. Let's definitely file something so we don't forget to do it. Do you want to do it, or would you prefer if
I
I
can make a
did it?
tracker.
Okay.
I make trackers a lot, so I'll do it as soon as when the meeting's over.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, so
Or
that,
the
that
cleanup.
way we can remember to kind of come back to it at some point and
We have a few of those
kind
things
of
like
build
as
some
well. Like
others.
there's still one for the way we handle text differences. I know you looked at it a little bit, like having like a different
Oh
language.
yeah, and the tests. Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember the way to explain that, but yeah, like the difference in the text, it like compares two different things. Like we
yeah.
have
It
like a
gives
PDF
you
tracker
like
for that.
like a little highlight in the output so that you can actually
Yeah,
see what character. Because sometimes they're so similar. You're like, oh, it's two curly braces on that line instead of one. Oh,
yeah.
stuff
Well, it's
your
something like
eye
that
doesn't
basically.
always catch.
Like we have like a cleanup tracker for that, so it's still there, so we don't
Yep.
forget about it. But yeah, so we do the same thing for this. We can get to it at some point. For now, it looks like the tests are passing at least, so no one's blocked anything, and we can try to come up with something later. Yeah, so we'll have the cleanup tracker, and we can see get this
Yeah.
automation going.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I'll put some stuff in the doc or in the meeting minutes after. I'll link the tracker I'll make. And I also, I guess, if we're good with that topic, I did want to talk a little bit about the testing lab. So I'll
Yep.
link.
I'm good.
I already linked the document. It was in a downstream Google chat room, though. Maybe I can share the doc with you, Mike. Well, first I'll link. This is the test results. They did a main baseline. I think it was the 23rd it ran on. It looks like they fixed the stuff sort of mid to late last week. So I went through all of the test failures in there, or at least the Orch Ceph ADM ones. I ignored the Orch Rook because those were pretty much broken already. So I'll mention the things I mentioned before. So there's a bunch of dead jobs in there, but I don't think we have to worry about those. They were all like Emmer re-imaging machines. It's sort of out of our control. But sort of ignore those ones. And then I went through the failed jobs, and I came up with 7 failures. I have And like I just shared it with your Gmail address. I've sent stuff to you before. Just some random doc that I put together. These failures.
Yeah, perfect. I see it. Thanks.
So I was looking through that this morning. There's 7, although some of them are much more frequent than others. Like the first one on the list, which is that seems like we can't get any mounts to work on our NFS exports at all. It just always seems to fail for multiple different reasons. I put a couple of them in that first point there.
Yeah.
That's
So
for. Huh?
I was just gonna say I had started to look at that about 15 minutes before the meeting started. Um, my main question on that before you move on to other stuff is are any of them passing? Or is it all
There
failures?
are NFS tests that are passing. Let me check actually if there's an NFS ingress test because those ones might have all failed.
And then the other question is this main branch that's being run?
Yeah, it's main branch.
Okay.
Yeah, so exactly what's in main branch. I even mentioned in there, like the fifth one on there is something we actually have a fix for in a pull request that's open but not merged. Obviously, they were just running main branch. So I can see that some of the normal NFS tests have passed, but not any of the NFS ingress. Let me check the logs of one of these real quick and see if these actually do that mount or not.
Well, one of the errors was just like it looked like NFS version mismatching, and I was wondering if I was going to start looking at which ones failed on which distros and try and see if all the NFS version mismatches were Ubuntu, but the other ones were CentOS or something. I had not got that far, and then I got interrupted by a different downstream task.
Yeah, I haven't actually looked in detail at them yet. I was going back and actually looking at some of. I have a bunch of pull requests that have review comments that I have not addressed. So I was going back and doing some of that stuff. I was going to come back to this after. But I don't think the tests that pass that are NFS actually do any of this mounting. I think they just they just deploy it or something like that. I think the mounting is failing all of them. I know some of the ones that failed are definitely not doing ingress. They're just NFS as well. I'm pretty sure they are. There are NFS tests that have passed, but again, I don't think they're doing this mounting. I'm pretty sure this is failing university.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but it seems to be that way. At least I checked one of the ones that passed, and it didn't happen to have any of the mounting in it. I feel like that's probably not a coincidence. But I think we do have a few tests that just make sure we can deploy it fine, and they don't actually do much with it. Whereas these like test NFS tasks and the NFS ingress ones do a lot more. Yeah, so there's that one. So that's the big one. I think it's almost half of the failures. The second one I was a bit confused by. It ends up with it can't find the Ceph ADM file that it's supposed to pull. I have some, it's not very nicely formatted in there, but I have a big piece of the output in there. And it eventually comes up to unable to execute home Ubuntu Ceph test Ceph ADM, no such file or directory. And it looks before that it's trying to pull something from Chakra. I didn't look exactly why it's failing or what really happened there, but I thought maybe it's possible that's what's going on. It couldn't pull it for some reason. But I believe that one only happened once. And there was over 100 tests, and I assume a multiple of them were trying to do this. So maybe it was a stuff-like thing. It might not be something I have to worry about that much, but it did happen, so I included that one as well.
Yeah, that sounds like the path from the compile Ceph ADM stuff that both Mike and I have touched, but I don't know. Even looking at that trace in the document,
Yeah, so I don't, that one might have just been a weird one-off because it failed on a thrash test as well. I believe that was the only thrash test that was in the failures, and it failed in like this weird way. We'll see, I guess, if that one comes up more. If it's only doesn't show up at all, or it's extremely rare, maybe we can sort of ignore it for now, or maybe it is some problem with some of the infra is still not totally working properly. I know there were some issues with some other thing. I know Yuri was saying some of his CentOS builds were still failing, pulling some images from places because some of the services were a bit in and out. And Danmik was still fixing up a couple things. And that was after this run happened, so it's possible that there's maybe one or two of these things is actually not going to be a problem. And that one maybe would be a likely candidate for one that could end up not being an issue. But I'm trying to track all of them in case they keep popping up. That one's in there. 3, cannot stat etc containers registries.conf. I didn't look into this one really at all. I think I've seen it before, but I don't know what causes it. It happened twice in this run. They both the same distro. I thought it happened twice. No, there's one CentOS 8.stream and one rel 8.6. Totally different tests. One is an MDS upgrade sequence. One of them was just a smoke list that just deploys a handful of things. Doesn't really do much. So seemingly totally two unrelated tests had this failure. Again, I don't know if this is just some weird flicky thing. So we did have 17 tests fail reimaging machines. So it's possible that there's some other things that were just wrong with the infrastructure still that we can't really fix on our side. That was one of them. Fourth one is something about installing an SD Linux package. Again, it seems like it happened in two. I think those ones were both rel. Yeah, those are both rel tests. I think the exact same test, it looks like. Yeah. So the rel smoke test. I didn't check if any of those passed yet. I'm gonna have to look at that one. I think it's just installing a package, so this is maybe something you have to fix on the initial setup part of the test, or maybe it's just somewhere in the image for. They did put up new images of all the distros up. They lost all of that stuff, so maybe there was something in one of these old images and it got missed. They made these new ones. We look at that
Okay,
one.
so these are the images that get written to the machines, like
Yeah,
during
like
the
the
test
fog images, I
bootstrapping.
think they're called.
Say that word again. I didn't catch it.
Fog, OG. I think that's what they're
Oh,
called.
okay.
But they basically they fully re-image the machine whenever you're running a test. So they have these images somewhere that get used and they get put on the machine before the test starts. But they had to remake all of them because they lost them and everything. I think they lost like pretty much everything info-wise. So
Okay.
it's possible if there was something special about one of the ones I had before that it could have been missing. So if there is some weird thing where some package is failing to install, then it's possible again
Right.
something like that. We'd have to at
And
least
even
be
the
able to identify
previous
that.
one, the
Oh,
containers.conf, usually that appears like when you install Podman or one of its dependent libraries. So maybe it's an issue where in some cases test is trying to do things when the package is missing or something.
yeah, maybe it's even just an ordering of the way it's installed. Maybe the test tries to do something really early on, and they used to install this stuff first and installs it later. There's a few things like that. I said 3 and 4 kind of look like that, maybe 2 as well, where it could just be some strange little info thing. Well, we have to track them at least, because if they're consistent, then I guess we'll have to figure out what's going on and try to at least help the people who work on that stuff know what the problem is. So as we do more runs, I guess we'll see for 2, 3, and 4 if they're actually going to be a consistent problem or not. Because I think again, there's already been a few things that have been changed in the infra since this test run ran. So I'm planning to do another one today. I have a build. It's in progress. It's so far green, including the CentOS 8 default x86. So should be able to be good to go later. So we'll be able to see another test run hopefully tomorrow or later this week. I assume there's going to be a lot of them scheduled, so we'll have to see. Let's see. And then 5 and 6 are ones I've definitely seen before. I already mentioned 5. It's just a problem with the staggered upgrade. Since it's after we bumped the starting version from Octopus to Pacific when they moved to V18 upstream, and it was broken. There was already a pull request up to fix it, but that obviously wasn't included in the run. So I think 5 should be fine. The SD Linux denials in the test, the FADM task, those were there before. They're a bit annoying because they don't happen every time, but it's always on this test where they do happen if they are going to happen. But I do remember those being there before, so that's not a new thing. I think I hadn't quite been able to figure out what was causing that, again, because it doesn't happen every time. And usually, if that's the only thing that failed in the test, it probably didn't break anything if it's doing that. So I've been kind of ignoring those ones a little bit. So 5 and 6 shouldn't be a big deal. And then 7, this was a one-off. Only one test failed like this, but it was just we deploy Ceph mirror, and then it just timed out, waiting for it to show up in the OrchPS. And I'm not sure exactly why. I think that test passed a few other times as well. Go check real quick. Yeah, it passed 4 other times and just failed once with this. So and I'm not really sure what happened there. Maybe it's a test that again, it's just sort of like, we had that with some of the NFS stuff before where some of the timings made it fail very rarely, like 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10 times. It could be one of those, something we'll have to actually fix here. But not a huge deal. I'm less worried about that one than the 5, 6, and 7. Those ones are a bit more manageable. Have to see what happens. They're more normal failures, I guess. So as I put them into 3 different categories here. 5, 6, and 7 are like actual sort of Ceph things or things our test is doing that we can sort of deal with that either were there before or the more normal types of failures. 2, 3, and 4 are strange, possibly info-related things that we'll have to sort of see if they're consistent or not. And then 1, where it's just this is a consistent mounting these things doesn't work at all. Maybe it's a problem with the image they have up there. Maybe it's something's not set up properly. But we'll have to get that one fixed because right now all of our NFS Ingress tests are failing. I think that's it for this. Yeah, I have a build. I'm going to do another run. If the failures are only these failures, I'm going to probably be merging the pull requests that are tagged. Assuming they're all, I didn't look through them all to see if they're all approved properly, but assuming they're all approved. Here, I'll link the list of tagged ones. It looks like there's only one missing an approval. It's one of mine. Oh, there's only 2. They're both mine, my pull requests. One of them just hasn't been reviewed at all, it looks like. And that's the handling of the managers as a one-liner. Then there's migration current one, which looks like it was reviewed. I think I addressed these comments. This one's pretty old. Yeah, so if anyone does have a little bit of time to review maybe those 2. I think everything else in here is approved, and I'm willing to merge these even if we have a run with a bunch of failures. It's been a while, and I've gone through them pretty thoroughly, so you know which things are in main branch and which things would be caused by any of the pull requests in the run.
Could you put the links in maybe the Etherpad doc agenda or something?
You have links to. Yes, that's just my whip ADK testing tag, and I think it also has a couple other things like if they're all to be open or whatever. I could I don't know this doc. I don't know if I should. This one's because I would have to share it universally, I guess, if I wanted to put it in there. Right now, it's just pull in the downstream Google chat and Mike who can see this. I guess it's not like it's anything sensitive in here. Maybe I could just make it so anyone can see this. I can't even do that. It only lets me do restricted or red hat. All I'm allowed to do. Maybe I'll leave that one out. Yeah, that's to say to the testing stuff that if we fix the mount thing, then we're actually in a pretty good spot. I think some of the other issues will go in their own, like the 5th one. We'll only have a handful of tests that are failing at that point. And the ones that are failing that are left after that aren't even like a test that's failing every time. It's like a test that has this weird sporadic failure where it's like, oh, I couldn't find this file here, couldn't install this package, and it's not even the same test every time for some of them. So if we can get that, yeah, if the first one fixed, then we'll be in a good spot. And as I said, I'm willing to even merge pull request with that still broken because we've been waiting so long. We should be able to get stuff back on track over the next couple of weeks before the holidays, hopefully. Yeah, that's really all I have. Does anyone have anything else you want to bring up here?
I'll probably be AFK at the afternoon, but if you're still looking for help on the NFS thing, like tomorrow or Thursday, ping me. I'll probably need to ask you questions about how to debug it. Because just when you Google like the protocol not supported error, you see things like, oh, kernel module doesn't support, NFS v4, it's only got v3, or vice versa, or things like DNS, which if the lab is rebuilt and the DNS is different, maybe it's that. So not sure how we'll debug all these, but
yeah, we might
usually I just go by the logs, but we might have to jump on some of these nodes and poke at them.
I can at least help with that. I know how to reserve nodes and go mess with them. And I know how to, you can actually run tests in they call interactive mode, where when it fails,
Right.
You can get it paused, and then you can go onto the node after and see it in that failed state.
That would be super helpful.
I'm going to be in the office tomorrow. I don't know if you're going to be there or not.
I plan on it. Yeah.
So I haven't been out in a few weeks now, but I was planning to go back tomorrow. I need to do that, and I also need to do an expense report for what happened or the trip 2 weeks ago now. So I'll be doing some stuff like that.
Yeah. If everything goes according to plan, that might be a good thing to kind of get together and do that tomorrow.
Yeah. And hopefully, if the test queue isn't too blocked up, we can even have another run. The tag pull requests. Maybe we can see if some of these failures pop up again as well. Assuming nothing in that run breaks as well. It could be possible that something that's tagged there is actually broken.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is because I did look through the list and I saw that my NFS PR is part of that, and that's where I get a little nervous. I'm like, I don't want like general NFS problems masking a issue, say, in that PR or something.
Yeah, we could hold off on maybe merging NFS specific stuff because like some of these things are nothing to do with NFS. Some of them, I mean, that might be the only one in there that's actually very related to NFS.
Yeah. Of course, on the other hand, I really, really want that to get merged. It's been months, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. It's kind of tough. I know what you mean. Like, I don't really want to merge it because it does affect some of like the exports and stuff.
Yes.
We do have again some other NFS tests that make sure we can deploy it and things like that, but I don't know if they really use the stuff that your PR is. I think that stuff really is
exactly. It's like if say there's a problem, like I don't know, we've somehow mangled the Ganesha config, and that's why it can't mount because the service is running, but Ganesha's not actually exporting anything. Like that's the kind of thing that I'd be worried about missing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of a tough call. But I guess we'll have to see how hard it is to fix this. And I don't want to wait forever either because this pull request has gone through a lot of review and a lot of testing and things now.
Yeah, so I think it'd be good if knock on wood, if we're both in the same place tomorrow, we can coordinate on that particular set of failures.
Yeah, that's the big one. If we can fix that one, then everything else shouldn't be as big of a deal because most of the other failures are pretty sporadic. So. It shouldn't block any testing because we'll have other instances of the test that are passing and things, and we'll know it's just some weird thing with the like eating with the infra or whatever. That'll be good. We can do that.
Yeah, so let's plan on doing one of these, like you said, like freeze the nodes when the test fails, and then we can go on. We can look at like the D message from the kernel, or examine the state of the Ganesha server, etc.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. I think Gyomu's done that before as well, where he's gone in and looked at D-message on certain test failures and why things are stuck.
Yeah, I haven't run Truthology a lot, and then when I have, I've always just done it based on the logs.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time the logs are enough. It's only for things that are really tricky that I ever have to do any of this.
Yeah.
But it can be kind of useful. To be able to lock the nodes, because even just for like messing with it outside of a test, if we can just lock the node, like this is the image that they deploy when they run the test.
That's why, because I'm concerned that the issue is infrastructure. Say either DNS config or that new images are missing, say all the necessary kernel modules or something like that. By freezing the system, and then we can look at it like in situ or whatever the right term is. Just say, oh, okay. The reason that the kernel doesn't mount is because it can't resolve the IP. It can't it can't do a reverse DNS. Okay, yeah, we need to talk to the infrastructure people about that. Or, oh, it's complaining because of such and such a package mismatch or something. Whatever. Yeah. I'm throwing out random stuff, but I think you get the gist.
Yeah, we can start with, I guess, freezing a machine and trying to do some stuff ourselves. And then if that works, then we know it's at least part of the test. We can go run through the test interactively if we have to. I'm guessing it's going to be that we're going to try this on some of the machines, and we're not going to be able to do it manually either. That's what I assume is going to happen. We'll have to see. And that's even assuming that they haven't done something since this test ran that actually fixed it or something. Because I assume if other people are testing NFS stuff as well, so if there was a problem, it's possible someone already brought it up last week and it got fixed. So we'll hopefully have the run from tonight there to look at as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like those builds are almost done. It's just I think I could actually run the test now. It's only the ARM build and the Crimson builds that are not done. Actually, figure those off soon. Yeah. Anyway, that sounds like a good plan. We'll look at the NFS stuff tomorrow, and the other ones we'll have to just see if they keep popping up. And hopefully over the next week or two we can get, because there's a huge backlog of stuff to get merged. There's probably like 25, 34 questions, something like that. So hopefully over the next week and a half we can start to get most of those merged, and by the time the holiday starts, things will be sort of in order for the new year. Yeah. That's all I have on that stuff. Does anyone have anything else? Here? Nope. All right. In that case, we'll call it there. And I guess I'll see you all next week.
Thank
Bye.
you.